Hi, how are you guys? Welcome to our live show. We are here today with SaToro. I want to make sure I say that right. We have our guest today. He is a sculptor and actually an amazing sculptor that we have today that we will be interviewing. I am so looking forward to interviewing him and having you guys learn about him. He is from Zimbabwe, which is fantastic. He is working on, at the moment, this amazing project in Denver. It's a really, really large sculpture, which he will be talking about his journey as well as his journey as an artist. But this journey that he'll be talking about with this particular piece of work from all the way from Zimbabwe to Denver, which is absolutely phenomenal. I am so looking forward to bringing him up and speaking with him and having you guys get to know all about what he's doing, who he is, and the fabulous information that he'll be sharing about his Zimbabwe history and the things that he's learned, not just about his sculpting, but also about his past and his future journeys that are coming up. So I'm going to bring him up, and here we are. Let's bring him in. Hi, SaToro. Did I say it right? Tell me if I'm saying it right.
You did, yes.
Great. Yes, because I was like, I was sitting in the house and I'm like, SaToro. I wanted to make sure I said your name correctly. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me on this wonderful platform.
Well,
yes.
So you said you literally just got back from Denver. I called and I thought, he's not in the studio yet. Where is he? And you were just coming back from Denver working on the sculpture?
Yeah, actually, I'm on the finishing. Today was maybe, let me say one of the last days.
Okay. So you're pretty close to the end of creating the sculpture.
Yeah, it's very close to
finish. Okay. So you're very close to finishing it. So tell me a little bit about you, SaToro, the artist, the sculptor, the journey, because you came all the way from Zimbabwe here. And I know you told me that you are actually a third generation sculptor.
Yes, the history is a little bit complicated to put together, but I'm going to try my best. So my name is SaToro Tafura, and I was born in Zimbabwe, eastern part of Zimbabwe, close to the border of Mozambique. So the way the borders are is the border we are. So I was born 1981 and grew up in the village in Zimbabwe, starting my primary school. This is a British system, so primary school, and then I went to boarding school at the age of 12, and throughout high school until I finished high school, I was in boarding school. So these are mission schools.
Okay.
So the first one I went to was a Catholic mission school, and then for my high school I went to an Anglican.
Okay.
And so all along this time, because my mother is a sculptor already, she's been sculpting all this time. So me like growing up around this, all this around my family, doing this. My grandfather is a first generation sculptor. So, I just absorbed it, so it's all around. So me being a stone sculptor is it was pretty easy and straightforward for me. The tools were there, the material was there, and the teachers were all around me. So it was pretty easy for me to do. Yes. So after high school, that's then when I moved from the village to the city, which is sort of like the normalcy. It's normal for when you leave high school, then you go to the city to find a job.
Okay.
So that's what I did, and I was going to go straight to sculpting to be an artist. But then my mother said that I needed to study something. So I went to college for about 2 years, and then I came back to sculpting.
Okay, so you went to, and that's one of the things we had talked about. You actually went to college to study, but you pretty much already knew that you were going to be a sculptor. But you said that your mom, you had to have, it was your fallback plan.
Yes. I mean, even though my mother had already been, a successful artist, she still wasn't sure. So I had to, go to school, try to learn something, and then do what I wanted after that.
Well, that's pretty understandable for her to kind of, and that's what mothers do. It's even though, like you said, you grew up in all of this basic creativity all around you, and your mom was a successful sculptor. It's not like she was a struggling sculptor. She was actually a successful sculptor, and then your grandfather was also a sculptor, and so it was basically inherent in you. But your mom, being a mom, was like, hey, I want you to definitely have a plan B.
Yes. That's what happened with the system. The system back home, or in most of the African countries, is that there's no, unless you go to a group A school, there is no art lessons. There's, it's minimal. It's there, but it's minimal. It's very minimal. There's no.
Really?
Yes. There's no art as a subject. Doesn't exist in those schools. So it's really emphasizing on other areas.
Okay.
Rather than being an artist. So
okay.
The communities, even parents, are on you as far as the academic is concerned. So it's I learned more art at home than in school.
That's interesting. That so is it that they just don't value art within the school systems?
Well, we have to understand that we're coming from a colonial background. We probably are still in that, but we're coming from that, and the empire builders have their goals. The goal is to train the young men in the beginning, train the young men to be a good worker in specific areas of skill. So art wasn't there. Art was a luxury, So we did have in the beginning when the missionaries were coming. So going back to the history of Zimbabwe, as other colonial places, you destroy the empire destroys what is available, what is going on with the natives, right? And after that, the missionaries started coming in to put new knowledge. So you destroy the knowledge, existing knowledge, and you destroy the structures that produce new knowledge. So that's how you can come and start to build on the empire.
Okay.
So, yes. So there were specific mission schools that were built by missionaries who were artists. The missionaries were coming from art schools in England or Switzerland, and they would come and build a mission school. But it was very the schools that are known is maybe 2-3 schools in the whole country. So you can imagine how much is lost in that.
So would you say that, because it's interesting, because would you say that before all of these schools start coming in and cultures start coming in, would you say that there was art within your culture and within your country, a specific art or an art form, as opposed to just being taught to be a productive worker?
There was definitely there was. You know, it's in Africa, art is everywhere. We live our daily existence is art, right? It goes to what we use, the utensils, the music, the dances. It's in everything, the potteries, everything. So that was all put on not even stagnant, but that was destroyed. The structures that helped us produce more of those materials, of those art, they call it artifacts now, was destroyed.
Okay.
Right. So the knowledge is not they're not able to pass it to the younger generation. And then when they saw that, oh my God, we have destroyed everything. No, not even a single artwork is coming out of this society. That's when the missionaries were called to come in and started to teach.
Okay. But
so
they
started Shona sculpture today, for example. We grew up being taught that it's an art form from our ancestors and things like that. But, you know, doing my research and looking back at it is, how come I know the first generation of Shona sculptors when coming from our ancestors?
Right.
So that put me in a direction where I had to do research and dig and, you know, read more about it. But also the literature is colonized. Yeah, you know, you sort of have to go back and forth and go on the ground to do the research and compare and see, you know, it's never known exactly. For example, in the Great Zimbabwe, the birds, there were great Zimbabwe birds that were found there, but no one knows who did them. And for a long time, they were attributed to extraterrestrial people who lived there and those pieces. So the history is distorted. So you know, I'm trying to go through all these things and trying to find out, to discover research about myself. So you know, in the history and everything.
And that's what kind of that's kind of what this project that you're doing in Denver. It's not just a sculpture, but it's also you're dealing with research from your history.
Yes, there's a lot of research that I'm going through. So when I started this project, I decided to make a film This is my first time making, going into that genre. But, I decided, since this is like a monumental project, the biggest I've ever done, I have to put it on film. So it started off as just like the process.
Okay.
And then when I went to Zimbabwe to go to the quarry to get the raw stone, then I started to think, well, it's not enough just to have the process. It has to have more. So I decided to have the history of the art movement in Zimbabwe.
Okay. I do have this. This is actually, and you can tell, you could share what this one is about. Hold on, I want to make sure I put a little bit of sound with it. Give me 1 second. And you can share what this is, what's going on here, so that people will know. Oh, did I get rid of it? Hold on. Hold on. I think I removed it from the. Give me 1 second. You can keep talking about it while I grab it again, because I did have it. I'm just going to pull it back up once more.
So this is some of the footage that we took while we were in Zimbabwe trying to get the raw stone out from the quarry. So it's part of the film project that's going with the sculpture. So we were down in at the quarry, and probably it took about 6 months to get the raw stone out of the quarry, because there's no machinery in the quarry. It's manual. It has to be manual because it's gone out, and the people working in the quarry have to use block and tackle.
So what are they using right now?
So right now they're using block and tackle.
Okay.
So because the raw stone was
This place is magical, man. Hey, I love this place.
The raw stone was so big, we had to use a number of block and tackles together so they can help each other to pull the stone out from the quarry. But it didn't work. It didn't work at all. So we ended up getting machinery. First we got crane, and the crane drove all the way from Harare, which is the capital, about 6 hours drive. And then when it arrived, we found out it couldn't drive up to the top of the mountain to pull the stone out. So it was a waste of resources. And next, what we thought about getting an excavator. So the excavator finally did it.
So the excavator got it out. So what you guys are doing, what they were doing right here, they're just lifting the stone or bringing it to a point where the excavator can take it out?
So right now we have not decided for any machinery. We're still trying to get it out. We're still trying to pull it out and push it downhill from the hilltop, from the mountain top downhill. That was our idea in the beginning, because that's what they do in the quarry. They pull them out and push them downhill to the loading bay. And so that's what we were hoping for at this point.
That's a big piece of stone.
Yeah, it is big. It is big.
That is a very large piece of stone.
16 tons when we pulled it out. It was 16 tons.
And so, is that normal for, like, when your mom was doing sculptures? Is that normal that they would go to the quarry and pull out stones of this size?
Yes, I grew up going to the quarry to, help load up trucks with the rollstone. That was like one of my favorite experiences. Going there to select stone and bring it to the studio.
Because here is this particular picture. This is you're loading up, but did you do work on it while you were in Zimbabwe?
Yes, I did initial sketching in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yes, because it was 16 tons. So I figured if I work on it for a bit in Zimbabwe, it will take off some weight.
Okay.
And then when I shipped it, it was 11 tons.
So is this when you were working on it here?
Yes, this is all rubble coming from the work we're doing on this sculpture.
All right. So this is in Zimbabwe. So you were trying to on here, you were getting rid of some of the weight. So you started. And so when you say sketching, you're not talking about sketching like we would say, oh, I'm sketching on a piece of paper. You're talking about sketching with your tools.
Yes. So sketching for me is really it's the work has already started. So you're taking off everywhere you think you're not going to need.
Okay. And then here you were.
This is at the quarry I was working on. This is something different. This is but still at the quarry where I was doing some work while
while they were working on trying to get it out. You figured you just work on a piece of. You just figured you'd work on some too, huh?
Right.
Well, I can see that. I guess I would say, can you literally walk past a piece of stone without visualizing something?
Yes. But I have a lot of say when there's a lot of in the Rocky Mountains right here. So you take a drive into the mountains and stuff, you see all the rocks around you, but I definitely see some things on those rocks, while you drive, or you see it everywhere, but it's just like a rock that's
it's not screaming out to you, change me, form me.
Usually you see something already in there, something that is already done, naturally done. That's what you see. It's not, usually for me, it's not screaming for me to come and work on it. You see a sculpture already, naturally.
Right. It's sort of like I think it was Michelangelo. He said it was already in there, and that's how you see it. It's like the sculpture is already in there. You're just freeing it.
Yes. There's a lot that goes on. Sometimes the pieces take longer time than you'd expect. For example, this sculpture has taken me 3 years to finish. So that's the longest I've been working on one piece. I work on smaller pieces also, 6 months or a year or something like that. But it's always exciting to come back. I have sketches that I've done like 2 years ago. They're still in my studio waiting for me to come back. So when you go back, you have a new perspective. You look at it, because all this, 2 years, there's a lot of growing,
right,
for you as a person. So that's just how it goes.
Right. Yeah. And you have a lot of pieces that you work on, because you do shows out here And I'm just going to show a few of them. I think this is pretty, this is an elephant piece. What can you tell me about this particular piece? It's actually really beautiful. Is it something, are there a lot of elephants in Zimbabwe, or, I mean, do you come in contact with them, or,
So the answer is yes. There's elephants in Zimbabwe, but there is a problem too. You know, the problem of poaching, killing these animals, and you know, trying to get ivory and stuff. So I titled this sculpture "More Than Ivory." You know, in a response to that.
The poaching and everything.
The poaching, yes. So there's a lot of sinister business around it and stuff. You know, it's not brought to the surface a lot because a lot of, you know, high people in you know, big figures have something to do with it, and sometimes. So that was my response to that, and I try to make it very simple because you know what you see in the front here, that's all that is to it. There's nothing behind it. Behind those ears is just, you know, almost flat. So I was trying to just use the minimum material, and but bring out what I was trying to interrogate. Yeah.
And that's what I like about it. I like that you said it's more than ivory, and that's what I kind of like about the piece, because the piece, it sort of minimizes the ivory. Whereas a lot of times when you see elephant sculptures, you have these long tusks and you have, you know, it's very emphasized.
Right.
But the way you did it, it's almost like an infant elephant, not a full grown elephant, which I think is absolutely beautiful. The way you did it and how you show it, it's very delicate and very elegant. And so it's almost like you are showing the humanity side of it, or the sort of almost like the human side of it. It's like, this is more than, you know, just a product.
Right. So the size of this sculpture may be about 5 feet high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the size of it, and I wasn't trying to exaggerate the horns at all, because that's the subject I'm trying to, you know, tackle here.
Right. And that's kind of what I see in this, is that you was trying to minimize that part of it. Whereas most people, like I said, that's what they show is like the tusk, you know, because they're elegant and they're this and they're that. But you really show the actual beauty of the animal. And that's what I see from that, is where you are actually showing the beauty of this animal. And it's like, it's a living being. It's not just something that you take and kill for profit.
Yeah, thank you. So when the colors that you see in the sculpture, I don't know if you can put it back. The colors, you see, there's colors, and there's a natural that I left. Sometimes you get lucky. That's how, you know, I love working with stone, because sometimes it's unpredictable. So sometimes they're raw, and the colors, you know, different colors come in, and you try and take advantage of those things to enhance the look of the creation.
And that's what I see. That's a really beautiful piece. I really like that. You know, I was on your I was not your website. I was on your Facebook page, because after we spoke on Thursday, I went to visit your Facebook page because I was just curious when you had sent me and said, "Oh, my computer," and so I went on your Facebook page to kind of see what was on there, and I just began to read some things on your Facebook page, and I just want to bring your Facebook page up because I feel that there is some pretty amazing parts of that on your Facebook page, and it's the things that you wrote that went along with the when you were doing the installations. I was deeply moved into the history of stone in Zimbabwe, and it's emotional for me. So sometimes I find myself being introspective and not sharing updates as I should. Just reading through the things that you wrote as you created this piece was amazing to me. I got so much out of reading your blog entries that as you were creating these pieces. Can you share a little bit about those emotional aspects that you were having while you were creating these pieces?
So the emotional part of it is also enhanced by the research that I'm doing at the moment. There always, you hear people say, well, you have to understand who you are and blah, 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 blah. So I took on that challenge because I wasn't understanding. Things were not lining up for me as far as my history is concerned. So it goes back to colonialism and empire building, and asking questions. A lot of papers and books and scholarly work has been done on this art form from Zimbabwe, and some of it was just curators who would come in, trying to make a quick buck out of it. So all those things, they destroy who you are. They destroy what is there. When you say capitalism, when capitalism comes and through your staff or your people, it usually destroys a lot of the fabric. So understanding those things and trying to understand myself and realizing that what you grew up looking at as your own is not yours, right? It came in the imperial interpolation, and you've been talking about this thing and bragging, talking about it, but then it comes, you understand the root, and you try to look for specific information you cannot find, because all the books and all the journalists have written about it and manipulated information. So understanding those things, and you read this scholar and this scholar, they are not coming up with different things and things like that. So that's part of the emotional part that I was talking about.
As you were doing these.
Yes. But also, it's something I grew up doing, and I love it, and it's dear to me. And the subject too is, you know, the subject, it was very easy for me to do because this is a commission, but there was no, it was not too tight. It was very free. You know, it was a basic subject. The subject was family, right? And that's my playground, right? So it was very, very easy for me to tackle the subject, and it was very freeing, yeah, because they didn't put a lot of stringent structures to
on how you created it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was easy for me to do and to approach and to tackle. But
I know I did a lot of reading on your page. So now the Shuni sculptures, is that originally a part of your culture?
It's very difficult to say. Of course, we've been working with stone. History shows that we've been working with stone for you know, going back. Because it's evidence in the architecture and sculptures that were found, but they didn't have signatures. So the archaeologists at that time could write anything what they wanted, you know, because they didn't think an African or people from that area could work on such wonderful works of art. So, you know, they just, you know, wrote what they wanted and published it and put it in books and in universities, and, you know, which is part of destroying a culture. You know, when they say epistemicide, it's part of destroying that and removing you from your work. And then start to build from there, you know, just to try and own what you do and to bring you in and to contribute into the empire.
So you're not, whether they were a part of your culture, they're definitely a huge part of your culture now, as far as an art form.
As far as an art form, it's difficult to come to a conclusion with that. It is right now, but if you look at history and stuff, our art didn't look like this.
Okay.
But a lot of people, a lot of artists, a lot of us back home, we, you know, naturally think that this is from our culture and this is from our forefathers and things. But because of the distortion that happened, it's difficult to put concrete bridges to connect it to that. There's no, if you look at what the mission schools, the mission art schools, what a lot of work that they did, and they claim the ownership of the art movement.
Oh, really? Now, was because your grandfather was a sculptor, was his sculptures in this similar style, or did he sculpt more in the traditional style of your culture?
So if looking back at my grandfather's story, he passed away last year. So his own father was a blacksmith, but he didn't grow up with him. He passed. His own father passed away when my grandfather was a baby, so he didn't see him. So it was just when you hear stories about hearing stories about his father and things like so that inspired him to start creating as a craftsman or an artist, and then ended up when the stone sculpture movement came in, it was easy for him to join. Yes.
Okay, so then it wasn't necessarily the style of the culture of your culture. It was it was a movement of art that came in. Was that a movement that was brought in via missionaries, or was it a combination of stone sculpting from your culture and concepts and ideas from other cultures?
If you look at the what was produced then and now, then there was no art for art's sake. It was mostly utensils.
Okay.
To functional art, like you'd have like yokes for the oxen, you would have motors, you would have spoons and cooking sticks, all kinds of things like that. But basically I'm saying functional.
Okay.
Functional art. And when this movement started, it was purely for art and for business.
Okay.
Yes. So the National Gallery of Rhodesia then, in 1957, they built the National Gallery of Rhodesia. And then they hired a curator for that National Gallery. And this curator is British, so he's coming from England. So he was instrumental in when this movement started. He was instrumental in starting this movement.
And now, was your mother a part of that movement, or was that your grandfather a part of that?
He was my grandfather at the time.
Okay. All right. And then, so your mom was a part of the next wave.
Yes, it was the next generation. My mom was the second generation. They would call second generation. That's why I was asking, like, how come I know first and second generation of the movement?
If this is our culture, if this is out of our culture, how far back have you gone to discover what your what this art form represents within your culture, and what kind of art form was already developed in in the development stage of your own society?
What kind of art you're saying?
Yeah. No, how far back did you go, or how far back were you able to go so that you could discover? And I know you said a lot of it was utensils and things like that. But what I've found is, and I think you said that earlier, every culture has some art form. We might not always understand it, but every culture is just like in the music, in the dance, in those things. So if there was music and there was dance, there was obviously art for, and it might not have been thought of as art for art's sake, but there was something that was created during that time.
Yes. Yeah, as far as art is, and there was designs. There was pottery. There was, you would look at traditional huts. The traditional huts would have like a design around it. You know, they did all those things and designs on the pottery, design on the fabrics that they used. You know, like those blankets and you know, different fabrics. And they made art in those things, and baskets was also a major where you'd see a lot of art into the products and the way they made those products, and the stools and hose and things like that. So the art was, you would see it on the utensil. So that was what I saw, and I'm still doing the research and going back and looking, and it probably is going to be very controversial that I'm saying this, because it's a very hot subject amongst ourselves, amongst you know, scholars and things like that. Very, very hot subject. So you know, most of the time I usually, you know, I police myself in what I say and things like that, because it's a very big subject.
It's a delicate subject, because there's a lot of things that have happened in that culture that is, you know, some, you know, where it's almost like things have been covered up and now things are being rediscovered. Or
the good thing, what you just mentioned, is that, you know, we're experiencing right now revival of cultures all around the world. It's we don't know where this is gonna go, but if you look at Mexico, you look at Bolivia, you look at all across Africa, you know, even here in the United States, if you look at native peoples of the Americas and Australia, it's starting to, you know, cultures that had been looked down upon, that has been demonized, is people, it's like the people are starting to come back and to realize how much they have lost, or how much they have been stripped of. So it's probably early to say where this is gonna go, but it's exciting times to be an artist.
Yeah, I had that experience with an exhibit that I was showing, and often as a Black African American, you're always talking about how, oh wow, you know, they didn't teach our culture, they didn't teach about our history, they didn't do all that kind of stuff. And then I did an exhibit in Fort Collins entitled "We Are Still Watching," and it just sparked a lot of conversation. But you know, in Fort Collins, you're looking at 1.6% Black. So the vast majority of the people that were coming to the exhibit and having conversations with me were our white brothers and sisters, and they were expressing how they felt robbed of not being able to learn about Black culture, Black Wall Street, all of those kind of things. And they're just learning about those things now. And so it's like you said, I find that this has been a really good year of awakening and allowing other people to learn some things that has been literally taken out of history, you know, because history, it's always said that history is written through the eyes of the victor. And so a lot of times, you're right, a lot of that history has been taken out. And I feel like now, during this time, we're becoming more and more aware of it. And hopefully there'll be a lot more done about it, sort of, you know, basically what you were just talking about. So I think it's phenomenal that you have done this kind of research and are tracking back into your history, and not just settling for, oh yeah, these sculptures are from my culture, and yeah, you know, but questioning, how do I know? You know, it's like, here I am, I know the first generation. How is that even possible if this is actually a part of our history, a part of our culture. I should know this. I should know the first generation. I should be, it should at least be like the 10th or something like that. I should know the first generation. So I think that's pretty phenomenal for you to want to go back and do that research and study, and dig and dig and dig and dig and find out more and more about your own culture. To know that, you know, a lot of times here in America, we're like, oh, we're trying to discover our Black history. And here it is, you're in Zimbabwe and having to do the exact same thing, having to do the exact thing, because there's been so much invasion of sort of, I would say, the European culture, until it is literally whitewashed all of the other cultural history almost right out of existence.
Yes, and so I find that a lot of people in the Western world assume or think that, you know, Africa it's like, you know, that's where the original you can find the you know, when they say the original, you know, you think that that's where the you know, but it's not. You know, we're struggling too. I do not think that there is space outside the empire, right? I do not think it's there on earth. I do not. But, you know, there is spaces inside the empire. Like, you know, you can do this research and you know, come to your own or help community come to a conclusion. But there's no space outside the empire. It's everywhere, even in Africa.
It is. It's all over. So I just wanted to say we are interviewing our guest artist, sculptor SaToro. I'm going to attempt your last name, Tafura.
Yes, Tafura.
Tafura. Yeah. And you can actually go and see some of his work. Check out his website, TafuraSculpture.com. Go by. He has some absolutely amazing stuff. His website is just has some beautiful work, and I'm going to actually show some of his work. We also have him, if you want to link with him on Facebook or Instagram, it's SaToro Tafura Arts on Facebook and Instagram. So definitely go and check his work out. Link with him on Facebook. This is the Beauty of Blackness Fine Art Show, Black art and culture. We are here every Saturday at 6:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. SaToro actually has an amazing studio in Longmont. You definitely want to go and check it out. This is the address. The studio is at what is that? 13183 95th Street. It's like, that's a whole lot to say. In Longmont, Colorado. Just some amazing work. He did say that you just moved into this studio.
Yes.
From the previous studio.
From the previous studio, I had a studio on 287 Main Street, up north of Longmont, but I had to move to the next studio, which is close to the previous studio, so not too far away. It's just maybe a mile or 2 miles away.
Okay. And so, and you've had let's see, I know you were doing some work. Is this in your studio? Is this around your studio or in your studio or at your studio, or where is this?
That's my studio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was my recent piece besides the monumental sculpture that I was working on in Denver. This is a piece I finished, and I showed it last year in at Loveland. I think it just comes as you know, what I was feeling at the time. So the title of this piece is called "Searching My Soul." So it's just my experience in working on this big monumental sculpture and the feelings I had that this came out from on this piece. So just trying to, you know, the research that I'm doing and the film, and you know, there's a lot of stress also when you're doing long-term projects and things like, film, how are you going to execute it? And, these are two monumental projects. And,
Right.
at times I thought, I probably have beaten too much than I can chew. But I'm still going with it, It's also fascinating. The history is fascinating. I didn't know this, and I didn't study history in school. And, I still kick myself a little bit for not doing that.
For not doing the history in school. Now, how do you get it so smooth? Because I'm looking at it, and it's incredibly smooth.
It can get even smoother than this one, but I have different tools for different textures.
Okay.
I have lately I've been using the angle grinder, and different discs. But growing up, I grew up using files and rasps, to make it smooth like this.
Now, I was reading on on one of your Facebook pages, and I guess a kid or somebody asked you if you ever hit your hand when you're doing these, and you said yes, quite often.
Yeah, I do all the time. I mean, it's
an occupational hazard.
I do hit my hand, all the time. But it's a thing where you develop they call it colors, maybe in English.
Right, the calluses. How do you develop the callus from hitting your?
Yeah. You get them when you keep hitting yourself in the same spot. It ends up developing a thicker skin.
Okay. So, that's a pretty thick skin.
Yeah, I do, but sometimes you end up not even
noticing. That's what you had one area where you said once you really get into your creative sort of flow, you don't even notice that you're hitting your hand. You don't even notice it.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes the hammer and chisel will get a chip and have like a sharp edge. So when maybe that cuts you, that's when you start to see a little blood. But other than that, you are in the zone, and
so it's created with blood, sweat, and tears. It's so I'm going to show some of your pieces because we do have some. This particular piece, I really like this piece. I love the rough areas that you've left on this piece. Now, tell me a little bit about this piece.
So this one, I did this one fairly quicker than other sculptures. Because I just took advantage. It just came. The shape was closer to what I was wanting to create. So you look at all those brown areas that I left raw. So the brown areas are oxidation from the ground. So I just left those areas raw. Just to enhance the look of the fabric and the face and the hair. Holding what she is holding is a cane. We call it cane here. But these are so I find that in my creation of sculptures, creation of pieces, there are pieces I create with a mindset from within. From within, when I say from within, I mean from within where I come from indigenous society. And then there are pieces that are created external from, let's say from outside, like how colonialism came to interfere our culture and things like that. So this piece is the one example that is created from within. So you find that it has those pieces have a lot to do with family and relations. Even though I find it looks so easy from outside. Looking at our culture, I hear people, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so easy. Oh, wow, they just dancing, they jumping around and dancing, playing drums and things like that." But there is a lot of complex relations, complex. It looks so fluid, but it's very complex. But it's because it's so woven tightly that it looks so easy. So I was talking to somebody about relations between me and my uncles from my mother and my uncles from my father, and the difference, right? And I've been talking to these people for 10 years, explaining these relations. They still don't understand them. Right? Here is just uncle, right? But we actually have different names for them. An uncle from my father is different from an uncle from my mother. So, for example, this is going to complicate this conversation a little bit. An uncle from my mother is my male mother.
Okay.
Right? An uncle from my father's brother is my father. Is also my father, right? So the difference there, you can already see the difference in the way you relate to them is very, very different. So navigating those how to explain relations in creating art and things like that, it's very difficult because a lot of where you're going to be explaining your artwork have no idea about the deeper relations in African societies.
Right.
So
it's more about understanding how your culture works than, because I know sometimes people just buy your artwork, like if you see, they're like, "Oh, that's really beautiful," but they don't understand the dynamics behind what you've created.
Right. So on the previous piece, I wanted to also talk about the cane that is holding. That cane, that was a friend of mine called objects that can acquire meaning and start to wield power. Right? So those canes are just not canes for helping you or in order to walk, but acquire meaning. And they start to wield power in themselves. So you have the cane. You have the cane that's been in the. You will find canes that have been in the family for years, right?
Oh wow!
That are passed down from generations, right? So those objects become powerful and they gain meaning, and just like here, maybe they have the AK-47. The same power it will wield.
Okay.
In society. So when you say a woman with that cane, means they've been experienced a lot and have a lot of wisdom. And so that's a secret, like right there, because it's loaded.
Wow.
Right.
That's pretty powerful. Because I mean, you wouldn't think about that. It's like I said, a lot of people just look at your work and say, this is really interesting. But to hear you talk about, especially the meaning behind it and the cane and how what this particular piece. Now, what was the title of this one?
This is a great aunt. So the titles will come as because when you say here great aunt, is very, very, like, very simple. Let's say very simple title. When you say great aunt in my language, when you say it to somebody who is closer to you, who in your language, they will understand the deep meaning of great aunt and the job that their responsibilities in the communities, the wisdom that they have, and how special they are.
So it's when you say great aunt, she's actually great. Right. That gives that sort of meaning to it, which is very powerful. Because this piece I find this piece very powerful, and it's very moving. I love the way you posed her body, where it just shows a form of wisdom and peace about who she is. I really like how you formed that particular piece. And with that, and it's almost like embracing her, the stick. It's almost like there's an embrace and understanding of what it means to have it.
Yeah. So these objects you find all across Africa, and how it's used is very. It depends with the society that you come across. They're not always used in the same manner.
Right.
The importance of it, you will see it all across.
Okay. All right. I want to show, what is the next one? This one that I brought up, because you have another one that's similar, because the family theme, is that a huge thread within the creating these sculptures? Is the family theme, the mother embracing the child, is that a very common theme throughout these particular pieces?
Well, no, not really. It's not a common, but it depends with who you are as an artist. I have colleagues who work in, in the nature, but it just depends with who you are, what comes out strong for you as a person in your background, and things like what inspires you. That's but also there's the different stages of your life as an artist. What you're doing when in your 20s will be different when you are in your 30s. So in 40s as it goes like that. And so for me, working through different genres is new for me. It's something I started in my 30s. Right? Doing the film that I'm working on, and other genres. It's new for me. So it just depends with your journey. I would say your journey. What is coming to you and how you want to express it, and the genre that you want to do. So it just varies. I'm saying, as far as your question about the family theme, to me it just resonates a lot, because I grew up in a big family, and very big family, and also very tight.
So, and it also probably represent your family now, because you're married and you have children. And so, because I know when I create art, I used to always tell people, I create really nice when my husband and I are having a wonderful time and we're loving each other. I create lots of couples. If we've had a fight or not talking, I create lots of individuals. So my art tends to fit my, my life around me. And so I would think, do you find that having a loving relationship and your children around, does that influence your work?
I think yes, it does. Mostly for me, when I work on subjects that touch family and relations and things like that, I find that my creative mode switches back home, because that's where this is. That's where I see these things, and you find it less and less here, because I think here there is more emphasis, a lot of emphasis on the nuclear family, and not a bigger family.
Right.
Where I come from, there's more emphasis on the bigger family. You're not a family. Your family is not complete when you're standing just you and your wife and 2 children. It's not complete. There's more, a lot more to that to complete your family.
Right.
So I find that it switches to back how I grew up. I remember I was telling you on Thursday, I grew up with my grandma. My grandma raised me. My grandparents actually, but how it is when the way it is back home is you have home as in village home, and then people would go to the city to work. They also have like houses there. And that. So my grandfather was living in the city, and my grandmother was raising us in the village. So that's how it was. Mostly I was with my grandmother, and my grandfather would come to visit and things like that. But so you find that I find that influences my work a lot, because of what I saw, the communal aspect of it, the communal aspect, the relations with other villagers and things like that.
Yeah, I grew up. I grew up in a very large. I grew up in a big family, so I totally get it. And then we grew up in. Here is different. We grew up in a neighborhood, so you knew everybody, and everybody knew you, and everybody knew your mom and your dad, and so you kind of was raised by your community.
Right.
And yeah, and my grandmother lived with us, so she did a lot of our raising and things like that. So I totally, it's nowadays the family structure is so different. It's like no one, is like have a lot of kids or be in that kind of grouping. And I know my kids often say, wow, I really wish that we could have grown up with that, a part of what I grew up a part of, because I did. It does make a big difference being surrounded by large group of people and having all of that sort of like love and people to bounce things off of and people to fight with all the time.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to add was, like, I was thinking about it the other day when I was growing up. I remember the age, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We were so close to the earth. We were close to the soil and nature. We played in the soil a lot. And what was happening in my early years like that is so different. Things change so quickly that, like for example, we would have what we call beaters. These are celebrations of the harvest, or things like that, celebrations. Or so you'd have people congregate, you brew beer, and drums are played, and you dance. I know it adds to the Africans jumping around and dancing, but we did that growing up. And I remember, I can picture those things, but suddenly at around age 5, 6, 7, it went away so quickly. And that got replaced by small churches that were mushrooming in the village. The Pentecostal churches mushrooming. So they replaced those celebrations with new Christianity coming. So that if you kept celebrating those traditional celebrations and all those things, you were shamed by the community.
Right.
So that's how they got rid of all those things. But I have so fond memories about those, even though
and I talk about that often because we travel quite a bit, and I find that Americanology, because that's what I call it, we have to go and change everything because the way we do it is better. And I want my kids, it's like being able to take your kids to Africa. It's not the same, it's like Africa has changed. Being able to take them, and so you lose so much by changing. Because I find that even if you are bringing in Christianity, you don't necessarily have to change a culture, because I don't think that's what the point is. It's like a culture should still be able to thrive and have all of its qualities without changing it to accept something else. And so you're right. It's like removing all of that rich culture and all that richness. To me, it's more detriment than anything. And then replacing it with something else. And you see it in society today as well. I mean, if you see it, all on television and everything is trying to replace. It's like, no, you should look like this, or no, you should be this, or no, you should act like that. You see that all the time where you're not good enough, or this doesn't work. And so I totally believe that we should, even if you go somewhere, don't change the cultural structure, because you literally change it for the rest of the world. And, our kids don't get to experience Africa in its fullness because it's been altered. It's altered Africa, or it's altered this, and it's altered that. Everywhere you go, it's been altered.
Yeah. Well, I experienced it growing up. I was saying going to boarding school and stuff. At the time, it was we looked at it as like a great thing at the time, because they offered better education, imperial education. But what was it? Looking back at it, what was it? Cleaning us of who we are,
right,
and getting us, preparing us for the labor in the imperial society.
Right. Yeah. It was a whole training. Well, thank you so much. This has been so, I really enjoyed this interview. Once again, we are with our guest, Sculptor SaToro Tafura.
Tafura. Yes.
Tafura. I got the first name.
Yes.
Visit his website, tafurasculptures.com. He has some amazing work. Go down there and check it out. You can visit his studio, but I would suggest calling first. Always call. before you go by, and I'm going to post a phone number because I did not post a phone number. So let me post a phone number so that you can call and make an appointment to go by if you want to check out his work. You can call this number 303-856-6738, and you can set up an appointment for a private visit. You know, because the whole COVID, social distancing, I'm pretty sure he has those things in place. So definitely, if you're interested in going by his studio, you can call and go by his studio. It is located at, let's see, let's put the studio. It is located at 13183 95th Street in Longmont, Colorado. And he is in Longmont, Colorado. And thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure learning and hearing about your culture. You can actually connect with him on Facebook and Instagram at SaToro Tafura. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay. Art on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely go and check him out. Do you have anything on YouTube right now or no?
I think I have 2 short films on YouTube, I think.
Okay, you can go and check out some of his short films. The one that I just showed, that's actually on Venmo. He is working on a film right now that will talk about the art piece that's in Denver, correct? The piece that he brought back and completed in Denver. There is an entire movie that's being made or video that's being made for that particular piece, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a film. We're looking forward to conclude it in the coming year.
Okay.
We still have a trip to go to Zimbabwe to do some on the ground research and talk to people and all those things.
Okay, so hopefully we'll be able to, when that's done, we'll bring them back and we'll go through the whole film. I think that would be pretty fantastic because I'm looking forward to hearing more about the research that you've done on your history, on just your art form, and finding out what more that you have discovered based on the research that you've done. So if you hang out for a few minutes, I'm going to close out this segment and I will pull you back up and we'll chat after I close out the segment. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming in. Thank you guys for hanging out. I know we went a little over than we normally do, but thank you for hanging out here with me at the Beauty of Blackness Fine Art Show. If you want to find out more, go ahead and go to the Beauty of Blackness fineartshow.com. This is our segment. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, the Beauty of Blackness Fine Art Show. I am your host, Louise Cutler. We are here this is the Beauty of Blackness Fine Art Show, Black Art and Culture. We are here every Saturday at 6:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can come and check us out. We would love to have you, love interacting with you. Be with us next week because we're going to have the phenomenal Tracye Ellen. She will be here with us next week, hanging out, singing, doing her thing, just chilling out with her and just finding out even more about her. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing young woman that we are looking forward to interviewing next week. So definitely come hang out with us and spend some time and go and check out SaToro's website. It is TafuraSculpture.com. Go and check him out and we will see you guys next week. So oh, I'm not supposed to be there. Bye.